Oh dear. Oh no. Oh, it's all going wrong. Oh, goodness gracious me. What a result. Two results, in fact, that we are going to enjoy discussing in today's Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is indeed the Arsenal News Show, joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me and indeed making this a part of your morning routines. It is greatly appreciated. Welcome to a brand new week. Arsenal have two matches to play with Atletico Madrid on Tuesday night before taking on Crystal Palace at the weekend. Two home games in a row, two trips to the Emirates for Arsenal to hopefully take two more steps across two big competitions toward their ultimate goal, while their rivals take further steps back. Good morning to you all joining us in the chat box. Thank you so much, as always, for doing so. I greatly appreciate you all being here, and those, of course, listening to on catch up on our audio platforms. I do just want to say, before I jump into the chat and say good morning to you people, a few days ago, obviously, we did a show where we it was international break still, and we ended up kind of talking and discussing through how people became Arsenal fans. That was one of our best watched shows over the international break and most liked shows over the international break as well. And I have to say, it was very humbling that so many of you shared your stories and spoke of and let me know exactly how it became to be that you are indeed an Arsenal supporter. There was some great conversations, some great revelations as well. So I just wanted to say thank you, because obviously I didn't do a show on Friday. I was very busy with the match on Saturday, and then yesterday was the reaction to that game on Sunday. So being Monday morning, just want to drop a little thank you into all of you that did indeed share your stories about becoming an Arsenal fan, because they were indeed great reads. So I do appreciate all of you that did drop in those stories. Clint, good morning to you, to M. Norris, to Steve, to Claire, to Garrett Grantley Poos, to Black Shine, to Glenn, to Elder Roberts. We've got Adagoke, we've got Martin, we've got Ronald, we've got Steve, AFC Till I Die, we've got Wilson, and Olawale. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much to all of you for tuning in and joining us today. And Lucas has now been a member on the channel for 3 months. And thank you for your kind support. Greatly appreciate it. If you want to become a member and support the channel, perhaps join our Discord server by becoming an expert member or a TGT ambassador, you can do so by clicking the join button, which is next door to the subscribe button if you're not already subbed to the channel. But drop a like, help us out. All that usual YouTube-y stuff does indeed go a long way. I also uploaded the match day vlog from the game against Fulham at the weekend. That's over on my Instagram page, which you can go and give a watch to after this show is finished, at Tom Canton Media. You can find me there. It's all one word, no spaces. Right, let's jump into today's story, shall we? We begin with Arsenal's North London rivals Tottenham being beaten at home again by another Premier League sides. Aston Villa winning 2-1 after Bentancur had given Spurs the lead after just 5 minutes. But Morgan Rogers with an excellent goal on 37 before Emi Buendia, the Arsenal hero, the hero of the channel, Emi Buendia, scoring on the 77th minute to secure the victory in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and condemn Spurs to what has been a horrendous run of results. They have won just 3 league games out of 18 at home. That is astonishing. That is a record that is utterly. I don't think there's a word. I was going to use the word abysmal, and it is abysmal, but I don't think there is a word that accurately describes just how bad the home record is for Spurs at the moment. Utterly crazy and utterly enjoyable, from an Arsenal perspective, of course, where we can just sit, observe, watch, and really just sink our teeth into what is a brilliant thing from an Arsenal fan perspective to witness. So long may this record continue. I don't think that it will, and actually Spurs didn't play all that bad yesterday, but this record has got them firmly in their place. Arsenal now 5 points ahead of them after just 8 games played. They sit 6th in the table, behind Chelsea, behind Liverpool, behind Bournemouth, behind City, and on the same number of points as Sunderland at this point in the league. Moving into what was, though, the biggest result of the day and the most surprising result of the day, without a doubt, and that is at Anfield, Manchester United, for the first time in a decade, managed to bring a victory back to Old Trafford with a 2-1 scoreline, courtesy of goals from Harry Maguire and a controversial one from Brian Mbeumo after Cody Gakpo had equalised in the 78th minute for the Reds. And it, of course, means, as I said yesterday, and as how so many people took issue with this, Arsenal move indeed and are confirmed to be 4 points clear of Liverpool. It's nuts this day and age how many people go, hold on, but City are only 3 points. I must rush. Get my coat. I must run to the comment section and tell Tom he's wrong. 3 points, in fact, is the gap. It's to Liverpool, people. Come on, chill. Just behave. Just for a moment. Just think. There might be some context to what we're saying. But Liverpool are indeed 4 points behind and have lost 4 games in a row across all competitions as well. It is just amazing to think that after all of the arrogance and the ego that we've had to listen to from so many on that side of Merseyside, that they find themselves in this situation. Just drink it in and enjoy it. I've been saying this to fans for a long time. Arsenal may not win the league this season because guess what? It's a sport, and you're not entitled to winning anything. And people go, oh, we can't enjoy anything until we've won the league. Bollocks. That is absolute bollocks. Of course you can. Enjoy it. The football goes over a whole season. There's moments that you can just lay into and just like a bath of joy that you just soothe yourself with the victory or the defeat suffered, of course, by Liverpool and Arsenal's own victory. Hate watching has become a pastime almost in this country. It does feel like hate watching is almost as enjoyable for many as is watching your own team these days. That's kind of the way that football has kind of gone. But it's just enjoy it. Just try to love when your rivals lose. And after so much has been said, so much disparaging, derogatory comments about Arsenal, when you can watch Liverpool lose 4 games in a row, I think it's the first time this has happened in something like 30-something years. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Try and be happy. Put a smile on that face. It's just £500 million nearly been spent on this team. And they're losing 4 in a row. They're losing to Man United at home for the first time in more than a decade. They cannot hold on to anything. And despite all of the quality, all of the stars, all of the brilliance that are in that team, they're still losing out. And Arne Slot feels like he's losing his mind. Some of his interviews, his post-match press conferences. Can someone ask this man a tougher question, please? Just please, really put the pressure on. Turn the screw, somebody in that room, on Arne Slot, because some tougher questions need to be asked of this man. And not only that, but the amount of times he finds himself obsessing about Arsenal, it is hilarious at this stage already. We're only 1 point behind, despite the fact that 60% of their goals have come from set pieces. Oh, wait, we're now 4 points behind. And Arsenal scored another goal from a set piece. Maybe you should get better at them, or maybe defending them, because obviously losing to one, again, is a rather enjoyable thing to just absorb and bask in. Basking is the word. That's the word, I think, today. So, it's bitterness, it's a lack of accountability, and it's joyous. And, of course, what it does to the Premier League table, and thank you, Harry Maguire, always rated you. The Premier League table looks a little bit like this as of this moment. Arsenal sitting top of the pile, 3 points clear of Manchester City and 4 points clear of Bournemouth, Liverpool, and 5 points clear of Chelsea, Spurs, and Sunderland at this stage. Sunderland, what a season they are having. They're going to be no easy feat to beat on the 8th of November, a little bit later on, of course, this year. But Arsenal's footballing attentions will now turn away from where they sit domestically and where they sit in the Premier League table, because it comes at you fast, does football. Just 2 days after sitting in Craven Cottage and witnessing Arsenal go 4 points clear of Liverpool, 3 points clear of Manchester City, and going to the head of the Premier League table by some distance, they now have a press conference today where I'll be heading up to the Shobber Realty Training Centre, because already Arsenal have another game to play. And it's by far not a simple task. It is a hell of a challenge that Arsenal have got approaching them at the Emirates Stadium on Tuesday night, because Atletico Madrid And Diego Simeone, a man that so many Arsenal fans were desperate to see become Arsenal manager at many stages, is on his way to the Emirates to take on Arteta and Arsenal. We'll be hearing from the Arsenal manager a little bit later on this afternoon. If you want to get updates, of course, from the press conference, you can do so by following the updates on the football.london website. I'll have a full transcript for you, of course, later on the website as well. But it is, without question, a very intriguing battle between the two sides. I'll also be witnessing the open training session that's taking place at lunchtime. So we'll get some insights into who is and who is not there. Some names to keep an eye out for. Pierre Hincapié, of course, was not in the squad for the team that played at the weekend. Is he going to be involved in training? Will there be further updates on his fitness? We will wait and see. We aren't expecting, to be honest, too many other surprises. Madueke, Havertz, Ødegaard, expect them still to be out. But, I'd take a happy surprise at any point. But we have to keep our eyes on who is and who is not at that open training session a little bit later on. At the training ground. So looking forward to that. But Mikel Arteta faces questions from the media ahead of this game, where Arsenal, of course, have already won their opening 2 matches in the Champions League. Atletico Madrid have currently won 4, drawn 4, lost 1, I think, of all of their games in La Liga in this current season. And in the Champions League, Atletico have lost 1 and won 1 so far during that Champions League campaign. As they travel to Arsenal. They, just looking back at the current games this season, they managed to beat Eintracht Frankfurt 5-1, and they lost to Liverpool in the opening day 3-2. It was a pretty close game, and maybe actually provided some insight into the challenge that we faced, but maybe also some of the frailties and cracks that were showing in that Liverpool side that managed to score in the 92nd minute to win that game. Another late goal for them. But it is nice, I think, to see Liverpool conceding late goals at this point as well. It's like things go full circle and the law of averages is a real thing, at this stage too. But yes, looking forward to that. Right, we're going to go to part 2. We're going to go to your questions and more right after this in part 2. Right, this is indeed part 2 of today's show. We'll be jumping into the chat box and tackling some of your questions, some of your thoughts. So if you would indeed like to jump at me? I was going to say jump at me. I mean, you can throw your questions at me. Don't jump at me. I'm not strong enough to catch you. Reggie says, did you know that Slot was today years old when he discovered that coaches develop different tactics for different teams? Yes. One of the strangest and I think perhaps most revealing answers to a question about a person's psyche and own weaknesses I have ever seen. If you haven't seen this quote, what Arne Slot said about Manchester United and particularly their selection or lack of selection of Šeško, I think will go down as something of an all-timer. He said, we've seen Šeško play the last 3, 4, 5 or 6 times, but they go to Liverpool, they change the lineup. That's not the first where we've faced a team and they've done that. I just can't... He didn't say that bit, but... He did indeed say that we faced them and that it's not the first time where we faced a team and they've done that. What does he expect? Like, it's your job as a manager to appreciate that there could be any number of different profiles or selections or tactics that your opponent might choose on the day. What are you expecting to happen? Do you expect them? But they didn't play that lineup in the last game. I only prepared for that lineup. I didn't prepare for... That's not fair. This comes across as such a crybaby, doesn't it? And I know Mikel is no saint when it comes to kind of, moaning about certain things like the whole ball scenario, which I know gets taken out of context, but still, that sort of thing. But come on. What is that about? Seriously, what is that about? Paul says, no promoted team is currently in the bottom 3. Has the Premier League regressed, or are the promoted teams better than the teams promoted in recent seasons? I don't think the Premier League has regressed, but I certainly think that Wolves, West Ham and Forest are particularly bad. I don't think that's a controversial statement. West Ham, of course, play Everton. Is it Everton? No, sorry, Brentford today in the final game of this match week. Brentford, I would expect to win that game, even with West Ham having Nuno, of course, in charge now. But they are just bad. I think Burnley aren't particularly great. I don't think Leeds are particularly great. Sunderland look all right. I mean, you have to be pretty impressed by what Sunderland have done. They've probably done the smartest business. They've brought in some experience. They've brought in some quality. They've brought in some really decent players. I mean, Mukiele was a player playing for RB Leipzig and what PSG, of course, I think as well. They've just made some smart signings. Have Sunderland, and you just have to be somewhat impressed by what they've done and how they've played and what they're doing. So I think it's a case of those three teams in particular, Wolves, West Ham and Forest, just being pretty darn awful than the Premier League regressing. Raphael says Arsenal is currently in good stead. Mikel Arteta and his staff have prepared the team well, overcoming challenges posed by injuries of key players. The team will need to continue to keep humble. I don't think they are getting carried away by any means. Doesn't mean that we can't. As I've said this before, just enjoy yourselves. I get that people are so scared these days to make kind of statements, opinions, to write things down on Twitter or to enjoy something because they're scared that in 6 months' time someone might bring up an old tweet. And I can't really stand people that do that. I'm never a fan of seeing anybody have old tweets retweeted when out of context, in the context of a new light. It looks a bit funny. It almost discourages people from having an opinion, almost. But at the end of the day, just enjoy football. Just enjoy sport. When Liverpool beat Arsenal, they absolutely deserve to enjoy that win and say what they wanted to say. But it'll come back to haunt you in this day and age. And I just find it just so sad how people kind of scroll back through Twitter feeds to retweet things. Rich says, Tom, is Nwaneri our best option for beating the low blocks without set pieces? I'm certain Eze will come good in time, but so far I've been a little underwhelmed. I mean, he's an option. He's an option. I think Odegaard is a key one as well, but we haven't got him at the moment. And I think Eze will come good. I think his ability to strike the ball from long range accurately and probably better than most in our team is going to be an asset for those games to score amazing goals, as is Zubimendi, you could argue, with his goal that we've seen already this season. But Nwaneri, I think, is an option, but we might see him play tomorrow night. I don't know how many changes we'll see from the team that beat Fulham at the weekend, but I'd imagine we should see couple maybe from that team. Richard says, Tom, do you think relying on set pieces is sustainable? I don't think we rely on set pieces. I think that's the wrong way to kind of assess Arsenal this season. Arsenal are a team that every single game, pretty much every single, even up against the likes of Manchester City, so pretty much every single game. The only team that haven't really set up in a low block are Liverpool, and then to a degree Manchester United, because we were quite sloppy that day at Man United and allowed them the space to be able to counter us. So they didn't really set up, or didn't need to set up in the low block, because we were quite loose that day. And that's probably our worst performance of the season, I think, Man United. I think we played better at Anfield than we did at Old Trafford, personally. But this kind of tagline that Arsenal, quote unquote, rely on set pieces, I don't think is a fair way to describe Arsenal at all. I think the fact that Arsenal have had more than 60% of their goals come from set pieces this season is as of a result of how opposition teams set up against us. We are finding it difficult to break teams down because they are good at trying to set up low blocks and try and frustrate you. And so sometimes you have to have a plan B. It's almost like, the funniest thing I find, there's a criticism labelled at Arsenal, is some people saying that Arsenal don't have a plan B. Except the mistake that they're making is that they don't understand that the set piece is plan B. That is plan B. Plan A is to win a game from open play, to try and break the team down. But sometimes you can't do that. You can't break teams down always from open play. In the Premier League, it's very, very difficult to do that. Don't forget that Arsenal are without a number of key players that would enable them to do that. If you think of a team like a series of locks, Arsenal are missing a number of their keys to unlock the door. Madueke, Odegaard, Havertz, these are all players that would absolutely help us unlock other defenses for different types of teams. And so when you don't have the keys, and your keys that you've got in your team aren't working, sometimes you've got to go and get the master key. And for Arsenal, the master key that seems to unlock any door at the moment is our set piece routines and how dangerous we are from those set pieces. So I always kind of dissuade or kind of move people away from this idea of saying that Arsenal are reliant on set pieces, because they're not reliant on set pieces. Other teams are reliant on trying to stifle Arsenal's ability to score from open play. And as a result, we move to plan B so often, or not even move to it. It's not like we're going for, right, now we're going to try and score from set pieces. We'll always try and score from set pieces, of course, but it's just a reality that the set piece, quality that we have is what is unlocking opposition sides. So I hope that made sense. It was kind of a weird key analogy, but I hope it worked. I mean, Mikey seems to think it was a great one. So hopefully the master key analogy of the set piece works and you understand where I'm coming from. Avinash says, I don't think Arsenal just got going yet, but they are definitely trying to change and play more direct. The good thing is that we have managed to win games even while not being at perhaps our best right now. And I think that's a fair statement. I think Arsenal have got a lot more to improve, a lot more to come. I think players like Gyökeres and Eza can get even better for us, as well. I would say, I put a tweet out yesterday. I didn't realize how much angst there is on the online. I should have been less naive to this, but I didn't realize how much angst there is about Gyökeres in the online Arsenal fan base. A lot of people already within the fan base saying we shouldn't have signed him, which I find a bit strange. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that comes from people that wanted another player and didn't get them and now going, look, I wanted this guy and we didn't get him. And the guy that we signed isn't really doing it so far. But I put a tweet out yesterday about Ollie Watkins, who has had a really difficult season so far and a difficult end to last season. I said, imagine if Arsenal had paid £60 million for Ollie Watkins in January of last season. And just for a second, think about that. Imagine if we had gone, I mean, it would have really limited what we were able to do in the summer window because of PSR and FFP. We wouldn't have been signing Gyökeres, of course, and maybe even it would have affected how we would have signed other players potentially in the summer. But on top of that, his record has gone from okay to worse. And the amount of comments that I had in response to that tweet that were saying things along the lines of Watkins is X times better than Gyökeres, to which I'd always happily point out he has 3 times less goals currently than Gyökeres does this season. And it is mad. Some people, I had a reply that said we would have won the Champions League. Yeah, we would have probably won the Champions League if we'd have signed Ollie Watkins. I don't think Ollie Watkins would have started over Mikel Merino last season, to be honest. I think Mikel Merino was doing a fantastic job at centre forward. And there would have been no guarantees that he would have been doing any better. The record of Mikel Merino's goals for Arsenal last season when playing at centre forward was astonishingly good. And a record that Watkins has got nowhere close to in the last 10 months. That's for sure. So, but someone did point to me a question the other day where they said if Mikel Merino had started all the games that Gyökeres has started this season at centre forward, would he have scored more goals? And I said he might have. Because the reason why he might have is because obviously he's already attuned to what Arsenal do. He's attuned to our setup. He's attuned to how we play. We're quite attuned to him. You know what you're going to get. I think he's better aerially, obviously, than Gyökeres is. I think he's more of a presence in the box, maybe, in those type of situations that we find ourselves exploiting so successfully over the open play moments. However, if you'd have said to me over the course of all the season who would have scored more goals, I don't think there's much of a debate, and it obviously will be Gyökeres. I think in these opening 8 games, there would be an argument for Merino, but across the whole season, I think there's a difference, and there would be a significant difference between the two. So I think Merino is an asset. I think Merino is a player that's important to us. I think Merino is a player that can offer us something different, something extra, something that the opposition might not expect at times. And he's a good player, and he's underrated. But the Gyökeres argument right now, I think for people look at Gyökeres in a very binary way. It's a word that we use a lot here on the channel, the binary way of looking at things. Because some people go goals and assists, and that's all that matters. And the reality is that Gyökeres, outside of what he's doing in terms of goals and assists, which is a little underwhelming at the moment, and we want more from him, is if you haven't yet worked out what has happened to Arsenal's front line as a result of Gyökeres playing at centre forward, then my recommendation to you would be to go back and watch our games. And particularly go and watch what's happened to the wide areas. Look at what's happened to Trossard and Martinelli and Saka. Because these are the players who are really benefiting from Gyökeres being in the side. Because teams can't double and triple up on Saka anymore. Teams can't commit as many players into those wide areas as they used to, because we now have a centre forward that plays off the last man, is always looking to run in behind, has to be shackled, has to be marked, has to be basically almost, kind of gripped tightly by defenders. And that allows the likes of Saka more space. It allows the likes of Eza or Ødegaard more time. It gives Trossard or Martinelli better moments. And it gives Arsenal a new type of forward play. that has led Arsenal to be very successful in where we are right now. And we have created plenty of big chances, more so than we did last season, more clear-cut opportunities in these games against Newcastle, against West Ham, against Fulham, teams that we didn't beat last season. And that doesn't come about through accident. That's because of how good we are defensively. It's how good ruthless we are from set pieces. And it's about the presence of players like Gyökeres and the job that they're doing differently from last season. And it's about how Arsenal are evolving, not just in the forward line, but I think Zubimendi has evolved the number 6 role. Zubimendi, for me, is proving to be a better player than Partey already. And I don't say that lightly because Partey was a very good player for Arsenal. But I think Zubimendi is evolving this role, is taking this role to another level at Arsenal. And I think some people have got, kind of some people are very attached to Partey. People are very appreciative of what Partey did. And there's obviously a lot of people that very much like what he did on the pitch for Arsenal. But you have to just take a step back sometimes and recognise when a position has gone to a new level. And for me, Zubimendi has taken things to a new level in the number 6 position for Arsenal. He just doesn't make the mistakes that Partey did. And he makes passes that are just so much more progressive now for us. And he's much more of a presence as we move the ball up the field that enables us to be defensively more acute. So it's without a doubt a step up in that position. And I think Gyökeres is taking things forward in a different way in the striker position. But I don't understand why there's so many people willing to jump on his back so soon. I really don't get it. Or why. So if you are one of those people, I'd love to know why. Why is it that you're not giving him time? Why is it that you're willing to put critical words out there publicly on record about a player that's had 8 league games? Why would be my question to you. Why are you saying it now? What's the benefit? What's the purpose? What's the point? And why aren't you giving him more leash than you are right now? AJ says, I am worried about Gyökeres' lack of goals. Or rather, am I worried about Gyökeres' lack of goals? Yes. Do I have doubts about his ability? No. Fans should realise that just like Eza, he's playing against teams who sit back and they need time to adjust. And I think James Benj asked a really good question in the post-match presser regarding Eza and the idea that he'd not really been playing against teams that set up in the way that we play against teams when he did play for Palace, because they do set up in a very, very different way to us. Ambrose says Gyökeres does move better than Kai when transitioning and attacking. He does pull defences more effectively than Havertz does. Trey Abs is pretty simple. Seen a pro footballer trip over the ball and look awkward on the ball. It's reality. I mean, he's also scored some great goals, provided some great options for our team, but you're focusing in on that. Why? Why are you focusing in on that and not the positives? Because I've not seen you put... But I mean, I know historically, Trey Abs, you are a pretty negative fan and commenter in the chat box, but why are you focusing in on that? Shonito says, my world, Zubimendi. I'm watching this guy in every game and I'm like, how can you be this good? Top class footballer. Nifty Legend says, Tom, Sweden to have a new head coach as Graham Potter. I don't think it's a terrible appointment, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Robert says, Man City are our main rivals again. Thank God for Martinelli's goals and getting a draw with them. Yes, it was an important draw. I will say, of course, that they would have been incredibly fortunate to come away from that game with a win, because they weren't great in that game. They defended deep. They parked the bus. And Arsenal, of course, having made one mistake in the game to allow Haaland in, really ultimately nearly paid the ultimate price for it with that moment. But we were by far the better team in that game. And Man City, I still think Liverpool are the favourites because of just the record, the quality they've got. And if they click, it's scary. It's very scary what that team could do. But Man City should not be ruled out. No one should be overlooking him at all. Matthew says, Tom, they are mostly Arteta outers. Victor Gyökeres has been immense because Saka does not get doubled up on as much, and it makes us better. Mario says, instead of asking why don't they give him time, you should be asking yourself why you are lying about his impact. Saka was on pace for historic season last season. Stop pretending like Gyökeres is making space. Pretending? It's not a case of pretending. It's the reality. That's why Saka has more space. That's why Saka has less people doubling up on it. And don't take it from me. Go listen to the Premier League's all-time top goal scorer. Go listen to Match of the Day from Saturday night, where Alan Shearer did a whole piece on Victor Gyökeres. He knows more than me. I'm sorry to hurt your ego, but he knows more than you when it comes to centre forwards, how they play and their impact on teams. Go and listen to what he has to say about Victor Gyökeres and what his influence is on this Arsenal team. Because again, I'll say this, and I'll say this humbly, and I hope you take it humbly too. He knows more about football than you. He knows more about football than me. And he particularly knows a lot more about centre forwards and how they play and what their influence is on their teams more than us. So, as Haaland would say, be humble and go and have a listen to it. Kingley says, it's like fans haven't learned from Kai. He also needed time to adjust. Gyökeres and Eze will come good. And look, I can't wait for Kai Havertz to come back. I can't wait for Arsenal to have Gyökeres and Havertz as options. I really can't. I think it's going to be wonderful to see what both of them can achieve together. I think there's going to be games where we might even see both of them on the field at the same time. It's awful that we've been robbed of Havertz this season. It's terrible that we haven't been able to see what Havertz has been able to give us this season. I cannot wait to have him back and an option for us again. Because this whole idea that Arsenal were going to be able to sign a striker in the summer that was better than him was never cut and dry. I said this during the summer transfer window. I said, there's not really a striker. I said before, I don't think Gyökeres or Šeško are necessarily massive upgrades, if at all, on Havertz. And that's not a slight on either of those two players. That's more of a compliment to Havertz, another incredibly underrated player who was on for 20 Premier League goals last season. So before he got his knee injury, which absolutely gutted the end of our season. If Kai, the whole idea that if Arsenal had signed Ollie Watkins, they probably would have won the Champions League is, to me, rubbish. But if Kai Havertz had stayed fit until the end of the season, Arsenal's chances of winning the Champions League would have been much more considerably stronger. Much more so than if Ollie Watkins had have signed for Arsenal in January. So we need him back because he offers us so many different options. It really, really does. RRM says our fan base have a trauma of past seasons and are looking for any imperfection in the fear of it leading to failure. New players needing time is nothing odd, especially when getting no rest in the new system. And I think you're right. But what I'd say is that people just need to stop doing this. You need to stop doing this. You absolutely need to stop changing the way in which you view football or enjoy football based upon what's happened in the past. You need to enjoy victories. You need to enjoy the wins, enjoy the rivals' losses. YOLO. You only live once, right? You need to enjoy it. You need to enjoy stuff. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself mad. You're going to drive yourself utterly crazy with how in which you're just not enjoying things anymore. It is mad to me. And I think as an ego thing, people unfortunately will put the pride of their own opinions above the enjoyment of watching their team play. I can never be that. I couldn't do that. It's just not who I am. But if it's who you are, then fair enough. D says the contrast of Gyökeres and Havertz will fry defenders' brains. They won't know what to do, especially when one comes on to replace the other. It will completely change the way that they have to play. It's a really great comment. Iama says, I think people forget Kai's first half of a season, even after playing so many Prem games. Gyökeres is much further than he was after 8 games, and fans need to start following. I do think that's probably fair. I think Gyökeres' first 8 games have been more impactful than Havertz's first 8 games for Arsenal. But what I would say to that is that Havertz was predominantly playing in midfield in his first 8 games and in the first half of that season. It wasn't until he moved into the centre-forward position where we started to see a lot more from him. For me, he was played out of position at the left 8. I think he can play right 8, and I think he can play 10 and second striker, but I don't think Havertz is a left 8 for me. I don't think it really fits for me, that role, at least. That was weird. I thought my phone was ringing. Cass says, remember our goal against Man City wasn't a set piece? Must admit, I did want Watkins, but I will always support a player who wears and plays an Arsenal shirt, and that includes Gyökeres. Support him. Soup says Liverpool haven't clicked yet, but nor have we, and look where we are. Indeed. Bazza says it took Bergkamp 8 games and Henry 9 games to score their first goals for Arsenal. Gyökeres will start scoring regularly soon, I'm sure. Lee says, Tom, do you think that Liverpool have over-recruited with big names? No, I think they've wrongly recruited, Lee. Because the 100 and whatever million they spent on Isak shouldn't have been spent on Isak. You'd already signed Ekatike. He was already having a good start to the season. You should have taken that 120 million or whatever it was, spent 30 or 40 million pounds on another young attacking central option, and then taken the other 80 million of that, got the Mark Guehi deal done, and brought in another decent defensive midfield option. That's what they should have done. But they got obsessed with this idea of signing Isak instead of doing the business that they should have done. And I said this in the summer. They had the most unbalanced window of all the top three sides, and they are paying the price of that. Molos says his first touch is terrible. Ball's bouncing like a trampoline every time he touches it. No amount of time can fix your first touch. His first touch is not as refined as some of the other players, if not maybe most of the players in this team. But I don't need his first touch to be brilliant. I need his finishing to be great. And as we saw over the last 2 seasons, his finishing has been awesome, utterly awesome. And ultimately, he got into some really good positions against Fulham. And he's not going to need to take the ball into feet as much when we get him into the positions that he is going to be most dangerous in. His first touch when the ball is coming into him and he runs short, that is where his first touch is going to be challenged a lot more. Despite that, I think if you rewind to some of the games at the Emirates earlier in the season, some of his first touch flick passes were excellent. Really strong flicks in behind, created runs for teammates in the wide areas and were really strong. But he's not going to need to have that type of first touch concern when we're playing him in behind. It's as simple as that. It really is as simple as that. Because that's the type of chances that he will thrive from. And they're the type of chances that we're going to have to create for him. And D says facts. Micah says their window has been very expensive disaster. That's the truth of it. Steve says Liverpool failed to strengthen their midfield and defence, which arguably were the 2 areas they needed to strengthen. Kingley says Liverpool needed a left winger in Diaz's profile, a DM, a centre-back and a right-back, and Frimpong is a wing-back. And I would tend to agree, hence why they're starting Szoboszlai at right-back over Frimpong, indeed. George says, I don't think Gyökeres was Mikel's first choice, as he prefers kind of the dual number 9 profile. However, what Mikel couldn't predict was his mentality, which is elite and will be a key factor in his success with us. Dave says, I think Gyök will come good. Of course, you're going to hype things click instantly, but you're not going to be able to do that. But it's often not the reality. It's not FIFA. Give the guy time. Don't. But personally, I'll give him time. Paul says Gyökeres' first touch has improved game by game. I'm convinced he will come good. And based on the eye test, I think he has like kind of one hilariously bad touch in most games, and I think people will focus in on that. But overall, I think when you kind of take that out of context and you remove that one moment from the game, overall he's fine. But people tend to focus in on that as well. So Nicholas says Haaland like 5 touches the other day and scored twice. Good strikers don't need a great first touch, and that does tend to be the case. You don't need a great first touch; you just need to be a clinical finisher, which we know once the goals start to go in for him, that run will fly. Emma says, Tom, I have the solution for Gyökeres. Someone needs to just tell him he doesn't have to Hulk smash every shot. Finesse is key. He needs to adapt and place his shots. He will score more. Shepo says, Luis Suarez did not have the best first touch, but was one of the best strikers in the world. Soup says his first touch looks worse than it is because of the pace of the game in the Premier League. He's adjusting as his understanding of our space has changed. And I think that's also a fair point. When you have more space in the league, you tend to take kind of more looser touches so that you can kind of move the ball into a space to run into. But in the Premier League, you need to have the ball a lot closer to you. Knowledge says, Tom, what do you think of Zubi playing on the Ødegaard's role, or at least higher up in the pitch, as on the left and Rice? I mean, you'd only be able to do that in games where literally the opponent offers next to nothing going forwards, because we need to have that coverage at 6 to have the balance. And I would say that when we played against Port Vale with Eze and Nwaneri, and when we started the game with Eze and Ødegaard against West Ham, that's probably the least balanced we've looked, with the 2 attacking 8s and either Rice or Zubi at the 6, or Norgard in the case of the Port Vale game. I think that's the least balanced we've looked when we've had 2 attacking 8s in the midfield. So that's something that needs time to grow, to improve, to change. And that will improve, I think, as well, because I think Arteta's keen to do that. I think if you listen to some of his comments he made after the West Ham game, and he kind of complained that we didn't really have long enough to try Ødegaard and Eze and Rice as a midfield 3, I think he really wanted to see what that midfield 3 would bring over time, but we just couldn't. We didn't have the time because Ødegaard got injured, and Zubimendi was without a doubt the right choice to bring on at that point in the game. Season Rapture says the rapture is imminent. Don't get left behind. Trust the gospel. The gospel of Gyökeres, maybe. Bailey says, imagine that, someone who doesn't have an impressive goal-scoring career telling someone who does how to do their job. Right? Right, exactly, 100%. If you're gonna, if look, I'm not saying Alan Shearer is perfect or I agree with everything that he says, but when he talks about strikers, I'd recommend you listen. Put the ego to one side and just try and listen to what a genuine top world class level centre forward is saying about what he is seeing as well. Because it should without a doubt put you to shame. Let's go to Martin. It says a player with 2 attacking 8s a couple of times a few seasons, ESR and Martin Odegaard, for instance, and it just didn't work. Raven says, didn't Jesus play for Corinthians? He did indeed. And I imagine we'll probably go back there one day in his career also. Avinash says, last season Arsenal had no outlet. It was mostly crosses and not many chances. Gyökeres, like Noni and some other signings, are high-volume shooters. They were brought in to solve a problem and change. And we are seeing a benefit from that as well. Travis says, what about the strikers that say he's not good? Which strikers are those, Treyabs? Just, it'd be great if people kind of actually said what they mean. It's like people don't want to ever give any evidence. What about the people that said this? Who are they? Give the examples. Who are they and what did they say? Your comment means nothing without telling us something. So there you go. Please help us out, Trey. Engage the brain and tell us what the example is. D says people getting upset about Gyökeres not firing at his best yet are the type of people that shout at their kettle for taking 2 minutes to boil water and not having any instantly. Chris says, I mean, it's a great pot kettle black kind of analogy, isn't it, D? Chris says Trossard's goals was his 54th goal and assist in 2.5 years. That is a fantastic record for a player who doesn't take penalties and doesn't start. Is that real, Chris? 54th goal and assist in 2.5 years. Is that real? That feels incredibly high. 54th. I'm not seeing any stats on that, but I'll see if I can Trossard 54. Has anyone said anything to that ilk? 54 contributions in 133 games. I am seeing someone tweet it, to be fair. Is it AI that's saying this? As of October 19, 2025, Trossard has made Trossard. I'm saying Gyökeres so much, I'm saying Trossard now. Trossard has made 133 appearances, scoring 31 goals, and has got 23 assists, a total of 54 goal contributions. It's pretty good. That's pretty good for a £20 million signing. 21 million quid Arsenal paid up front, 6 million in add-ons. We've probably paid a fair few of those add-ons now, so maybe it's like 25 mil, but still, 25 million. 11-1 says, Tom fact-checking? Surely not. Of course I'm fact-checking, mate. Of course I'm fact-checking. Let's just see if Trey has said, Trey said, what about what other strikers have said? And Trey said, I've said loads more, to be honest. Where? Who? I'm trying to find. Just tell us. We just want one example, Trey. Just one. Just one example. Just give us one, please. Please don't embarrass yourself like this. Please just give us one example of what you mean. Please. We just want one example. Shawnito says, I just hope that we win this league with set pieces. We get corners and I'm already screaming goal. This is who we are and I'm loving embracing it. I don't care about rival fans. It seems like we've got to worry about our own fans, Shawnito, as well as our rival fans at this stage. Shay says, so many shameless watch-alongs cussing him out, wanted him subbed off and then celebrating like crazy when he scored. Indeed. Trossard's one of those players that you have to appreciate for what he brings. You have to appreciate for what he can add to the team. And I remember at the start of the summer, I was saying, like, if you are to sell one of the two, Martinelli or Trossard, it's probably smarter to sell Martinelli because you probably get more money and replace him with a younger player while having a 30-year-old experienced figurehead like Trossard, who does contribute, as we're seeing, still to the side. So, and that might even be true next summer still as well. The Trossard doesn't have to be sold next summer. Martinelli could still go. So I think Trossard is a valuable part of this squad. Trey says, because I don't say he's good, mate, it's what he's about. Just one example, Trey. We're still waiting. Can we have hashtag Trey example? 3 examples would be great. Trey example. That'd be brilliant. But I just want one. I want uno. Uno example, please, Trey. I'm not even asking for Trey examples. I just want uno. Please. We just want one. We're all waiting just for one example. You said, what about other strikers and what they said about Gyökeres? So can you just tell us the one? We just want the one example. Nifty Legend says, I don't care how we score. Also, the ball hits the back of the net and we win the game. It's absolutely, as long as we're winning, who cares? Who cares? Trey says, give me an example. I've given you an example, mate. Alan Shearer, top Premier League goal scorer of all time, done an entire segment on Match of the Day on Saturday night, explaining to you and everybody the contribution and the importance of Gyökeres' presence in the team. Now, you've come back to me and said that you said, what about what other strikers have said? So kindly, politely, I've just asked if you could ever so just willfully add us that example. Just the one. That's all we want. It could be that you've just made it up, which would be awful. Like if we get to the end of this show, perhaps you've not given us the example, that'd be really embarrassing. Really embarrassing. So I'm trying to save you here and give you the chance. Now we've got probably about 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. It's not looking good. It's not looking good, says Matt, and it's not at the moment. Darius says, breaking news on the 8 a.m. show. Sean Dyche verbally agrees to join Nottingham Forest. What a terrible series of events that football club has gone through. Absolutely awful how they ended up getting rid of Nuno Espirito Santo. That was the worst decision of probably the Premier League this season. I'm trying to think of a worse decision other than not being able to provide an example for an example that you've thrown in. Other than that, I'm trying to think of one example worse than sacking Nuno as a decision made by a Premier League club. Oh, wait. There is one, probably appointing Ange Postecoglou. That was probably a worse decision. So, again, and we're still here with Nottingham Forest. Can we get Trey examples? Trey examples of another bad decision. Signing Isak instead of signing 3 players that you actually need. That might be another one. Not sure. But yeah, let's say D, Trey equals rattled. Trey rattled. He is Trey rattled at this point. It's just, there's so many quips and there's so little quips you can use with the word Trey. It is brilliant. And Matthew says, Trey's gone into hiding. That's what happens when you call BS out. It is what it does tend to be. If you're ever in a debate with anybody, it's the biggest recommendation I can give to you, especially if you've already provided like a good example in kind of against what they're saying. Just ask them for an example. So often it doesn't happen. So often it just doesn't happen. They kind of go around in circles, and because you can ultimately, what I'd say to you, and some good advice I once received was that you can't ever convince anybody really of your own opinion. There's no point trying to spend ages telling someone why you think something. It's 99 times out of 100, it's never going to work. You can't convince somebody of your own opinion, because the reality is that the only way you can really show someone why their opinion is maybe a bit silly, or in the worst case is just flat out wrong, is just ask them questions. Just ask them questions. Like, I see that you've given me a point. Do you have anything to back that up? Like, for instance, is there anybody out there perhaps saying that Gyökeres is providing something good for Arsenal, that he's doing a good job for the Gunners? Oh, yes, there is. The greatest Premier League striker of all time did a whole segment on it, which you can go and watch on Match of the Day. I recommend you do. And all you need to do in those moments is say, can you just provide me one, just one example to the contrary? Not Trey examples, just one would be great. And so often it doesn't happen. AJ's dropped in a super chat to say, Trey, I will give you one. I mean, if anyone, feel free to help him out if you like, people. I'd love to know which striker it is, which mythical centre forward has said that that Gyökeres has not been particularly great, or why they've not been particularly great for Arsenal. I just would like one example. We just want one. Peter says Isak has only scored one goal and nobody is talking about him. Let's leave Gyökeres alone. Avinash says, are you sure you're an Arsenal fan? Yes. Why are you so angry when Liverpool and Spurs lost? We're sitting at the top of the table. You have to ask that question too. Why would any Arsenal fan be unhappy right now? What would you have to moan about right now? Arsenal were top 4 points clear of Liverpool, 3 points clear of Manchester City. Conceded 3 goals, 5 clean sheets, 100% record in the Champions League. What are we moaning about? We didn't sign Florian Wirtz. It was Paul Scholes, not even a centre forward, and very questionable his opinions these days. Was it he said that Tonali's better than Declan Rice? Talking about midfielders. Goodness gracious. And then didn't he go on to say that Tonali's better and he used his goal scoring record, even though the Declan Rice has scored more goals? I mean, there's some funny times, isn't there? And that's, again, when you can use examples, even when a fine scholar of the game, and Paul, there are a few midfielders better than Paul Scholes, even a fine scholar of the game can make a point. As long as you've got facts and evidence to disprove them, you're sitting pretty. Very pretty indeed. So as Thierry Henry has criticised Gyökeres. So Thierry Henry did a segment on CBS Sports where he talked about the game against Athletic Club, you might remember. And Gyökeres was kind of laid through on the left-hand side. And Thierry Henry said that he should have been a lot more direct in how he moved the ball through towards the centre of the goal. That's the example that we've got of a centre-forward, genuine top-level centre-forward criticising an element of Gyökeres' game. Now, that was one moment. Of course, we've not really heard broadly about the impact of Gyökeres at Arsenal. And I agree with Thierry in that moment. I think Gyökeres should have been more direct and he should have taken the ball towards goal. But when we're talking about kind of the idea of a broad example of the impact that Gyökeres has made on this Arsenal team, again, we aren't having an example of that yet. So I guess we're going to have to see and wait and see if anyone, if anybody can come up with a better example of that, because we don't have one at the moment. There is Champions League football. Proper Meds says Jay Bothroyd was a bit critical of Gyökeres, but it wasn't detailed analysis. Mostly, I mean, I did listen to Jay Bothroyd's back and forth with Josh Williams. Did you see that? And Josh ended up just laughing. And I don't blame Josh for laughing for the kind of discussion that he was having on Sky the other day. It was... Josh did a brilliant job because Josh is a brilliant analyst. He's a Liverpool fan, so I do warn you if you want to go and follow him. He's a Liverpool supporter, but he is, without a doubt, one of the best analysts for me out there. Scouting Indoors, you can find him on X. Josh Williams, make sure you're giving him a follow. He is absolutely brilliant. Andy says, O'Hara, Genus, Merson, Neville. Some pundits ain't that smart. That's why Southgate looks like a genius, maybe, in comparison. But thank you so much, as always, for tuning in, especially those that can provide examples. We love you. You are our favourites. You who provide examples with the claims that you make. We love you all. But I hope that you will join us tomorrow morning again when we break down Mikel Arteta's press conference. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you, as it always is. I'll be back with you, as I say, tomorrow morning, joining you to discuss all of that from the Shobber Realty Training Centre. It's going to be, in uno, dos, 3 hours time. I'm going to have to leave this house to head up to London Colney, and I'm very much looking forward to it. It's just too many puns. I just can't help it. It's just too many puns. It's been an enjoyable show. Flapping around, watching someone flap around. It's been great. Thank you for listening. Drop a like, subscribe, all the usual YouTube-y stuff. And I will see you again very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.